It was supposed to be.
And then you just put 360 over it.
And then you guys all start screaming about
360 no.
And then I laugh.
Yeah,
Lori, you
Slope, please, children. Everything you want to know about slope and more. First of all, in the slope-intercept form, you get y equals mx plus b. In math, a lot of times, the letter m is reserved for the word slope. So if you're talking about slope, you would say m equals. Now, we've already done some of this before. For example, this one here, this is the old archaic kind of way. If I asked you for slope of this line, remember what we did? We drew a right triangle. And slope, write this down. Slope is, there's a bunch of different ways to say it. Slope is called the rise over the run. Slope is how far up over. Or you could also say slope is the change in y over the change in x. And we're going to look at that just a little bit here in a second. But, okay. So you can do it the old-fashioned way, and you can look at this right triangle here, and you can just do the counting yourself. In which how high is this triangle? That's its rise. It is too high over how wide that triangle is, which is 1. And it's going uphill, so it's a positive slope. So for this triangle here, m just equals 2. Okay, pretty simple here. This triangle here, slope equals, how high is the triangle? Again, come straight down here. If you don't know how to draw the triangle, come straight down from that point, and straight across from that point, and you'll get your triangle. That triangle is 1 high. How wide is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But it's going downhill, so it's a negative slope. Are you with me on that?
Yeah.
Bobbin? Josh? Has Josh been kind of, he's kind of been distracting me. Is he distracting? Oh, sure, we're going to keep an eye on Josh. Josh, I can't have you distracted. It'd be better for Josh to be out in the hall and only keep you from being distracted than have you here and have 18 people distracted. Okay, now, moving ahead here, see what this is here. Looking at this little section here, slope is really easy to count here. Why, Taylor? Because slope is, for example, what's the slope?
Standard.
What's the slope here of this? What's the slope of this equation?
I can't see it.
Oh, I went from 148 to 150. Is that big enough, or do we have to go find it?
Yeah, it's good enough.
What's the slope of this equation?
Up 3 over.
It's a fraction, Taylor. Just give me the numbers.
3/5.
Negative 3/5.
Negative 3/5.
Okay. Piece of cake there. Hold on a second.
So if you put it at 3 and then it's 3 over 5.
M equals negative 3/5, right?
Yeah.
Slope of this one is, Grace?
2.
2.
That's good.
Now, here's what today's little lesson is. We are going to find slope when we're just given 2 points. Okay? Now, the archaic, old way and very labor-intensive way would be for you to take a graph and plot these 2 points, make a triangle and count it. Let's see, 6, negative 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, negative 3, put a point there. 13, 19, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 19. You can make your line, make your triangle, and count the stuff, but you don't want to do that. Okay? Let me go back to this.
Rather put it that way than do
this is not going to be confusing for you. Write this down, because this is today's grandiose whole thing. Slope, remember the last thing I wrote on there is that slope is the change in y over the change in x.
I get it.
Ooh, somebody almost said it there, but Taylor, was that you?
No,
Oh, you subtract.
Here's the deal. Take a look. When we found this number for the bottom here, when you found this number from the bottom here, you could just count this, or you could look at, well, let's do the y one first, because it's the top one. When you find out how high this triangle is, rather than counting the little squares, you can just take the two y values and subtract them from each other. In other words, what is the y? Right here, y is -1. If I take -1, okay, and subtract from it what this point is right here, which is 3, no, it's 2, sorry, 2, I am going to get the top number of my slope. Because it's the difference.
Wait,
Okay,
can you
one,
say that?
how many spaces is this? 1, 2, 3.
Three.
That's my number there.
Why is it net?
Okay, wait. Don't worry about the positive and negatives on this. To find the change in the x, I just subtract the 2 points. Okay? So I just take, don't worry if you don't get this, because I'm just explaining why it works. You'll just need to know the formula. You just need to take one x point and subtract the other x point from it. In other words, take this, which is -1, and subtract from it this x point, which is 1, 2, 3. Okay? And my slope is going to be, well, -4. The slope of this line is 3/4. If you made the triangle, you're going to get 3 high.
Negative.
Oh.
Well, it came out wrong because of a little reason there, but we'll get to that in just a second. Just write this down. Here's what you need to know. M slope equals, I suppose I should write it. It doesn't really matter which one. Y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. And I'll show you what this is. It's not difficult at all.
Wait, what's the one next to the first X?
X sub 2 minus x sub 1. So here, instead of doing this triangle, I'm just going to write down the points. This point is what? It's -1, 3, correct?
Mhm.
And this point is 3, -1, I believe, right? 3 over -1. You are going to be given, these points, and you just need to take these points, put it in for the x's and y's here, and it's really simple. Here's the only deal here. You need to pick one of these two groups to be the ones group, and ones to be the twos group. You can't, in other words, this. When you do this, you have to think about this. You know that this is the x value, that's the y value, this is the x value, that's the y value. You need to declare one of them to be the sub 1s and one of them to be the sub 2s. And it doesn't matter which one you do, you just can't mix and say this is x1, y2. The 1s have to be together and the 2s have to be together. You could call this 2 and this 1, it doesn't matter, but you can't mix 1s and 2s next to each other. And it'll still work out the same way. So all you do is do this. Here, y sub 2 is right here, it's -1. Y sub 1 is right here, it is 3.
No, it's supposed to be 2.
Wait, which one's 2?
The first one, the y is supposed to be 2.
Y sub 2.
No, above that. That y is supposed to be 2.
Oh, sorry. You're right, it is 2. Who told me 3?
Your conscience.
No, it didn't.
Pavia.
What?
So you get -1 minus 2 is -3. On the bottom, you put x sub 2 and x sub 1. Here's x2, because I labeled it as that. I subtract x sub 1, which is a -1. What happens when you subtract the negative? It's positive. 3 plus 1 is 4.
So it's negative 3/4, that's the answer.
And the reason this came out opposite is because I picked the wrong point. I did the wrong point first and second. So let me just give you the gist.
Wait.
You are okay, Tara, don't worry. Here's what you're gonna do for tomorrow. This is the whole kit / caboodle. First thing, when you get your piece of paper, you're gonna write down the slope formula, which is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. You don't have to write that for all of them, you just write it once so you can see it and remember it. Okay? Then I would suggest being consistent on what you do. It doesn't matter if you make this the 2 group or this the 2 group, but you gotta make one of them more than the other. In other words, this is, I'll make x1, y1, and this x2, y2. And you just need to plug those numbers into this thing. So it's gonna look like this. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. A number of you are gonna be too lazy to draw that down, and then you're gonna come back to my desk tomorrow and say, why did I get all of these wrong? And I'll say, well, because you didn't put down subtracting a negative and it made it positive or something like that. But I'll get the satisfaction of telling you I told you so tomorrow. So you just plug it in. Y2 was 19 minus y1, which was a negative 3, over x2, which is 13, minus x1, which is 6. And if you can do that math, we should be okay. Minus a negative 3 is actually plus 3, so you get 22. 13 minus 6 is 7. That is your slope.
Pi.
No, it's close.
Wait, what is
3 point
pi?
something. It's not actually an exact number.
I was close.
It's an irrational number.
I was close.
I don't know where they actually get it from because if they don't start with a fraction. So right now, right where you're sitting, I want you to do this one just to make sure that you've got it. They're not gonna be really pretty slopes, but they will be slopes. Give me problem number 11 just to make sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't have your contacts in or?
No, I need new ones.
You will make mistakes when you don't do the parentheses. I'm just telling you that. Even with the parentheses, you make one, but without, you make scans. And again, you can flip these around and call this the 2s and that's the 1s. It doesn't matter, but you gotta be consistent. They have to be the same. Right? What are the 2s? Oh, wait.
X2.
Yeah, I got you. Oh, yeah. I got 0.
Wait.
Or 2.
Crowds.
360, no slope.
That's not okay. I don't like this because then you have to like switch up like because you
over.
can't just like move them. Wait,
No,
negative.
just subtract. What?
How did I get 0 over negative 20?
It's 11.
That's what I got.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
You get 0 over negative 20. Please know this. Okay, you can have a 0 on top. When there's a 0 on top of a fraction, your answer is 0. It has slope of 0. You can't have a 0 on the bottom. If there's a 0 on the bottom, it's undefined, it's actually no slope.
No.
Wait.
No.
Positive 11 plus negative 9.
Negative 9 minus 11.
So let's
Zero.
0 slope. I shall give you,
Wait, how do you graph?
It's not.
you're not graphing, you're just giving me slope. You're just giving me slope.
So if it has a 0 on the
Zero
it's
slope.
negative 9 minus 11.
Give me a second.
That's what I got.
Video, stop now.
Yay. that
Yeah,
is,
if you could just like
no,
somehow, you know, yes, yes, and you can like do like this, and then it goes like that, and then go.
Sorry to subject you to all that.
He's like, no,